Lenen the charge of the Natsundongra. Dignil Tuat Sungatula Goche Rayomar.
La.
Dignil Tuat Sungatu Chiamar.
Tua cousin.
Tuandi Chilamayon Yachindo is wishing you.
Do you know how the questions appear on that side? Do they not appear automatically?
I think it's...
like this, Adele.
Tuanda Yon, Nemangatsundi, Nema Tuat Sokoni, Marconi, Tiso Zondora, Tuan Volish, Mambo the Gold Chinese. And go to Nandumandro. Yeah. Also, Teshidile.
Okay,
How are you, Zegora? Tani young at some going to catch it out. Kangato Kasangini, Zopa the Shinizoba Namal Tanda Ketchemondro Kashindu Tate Chijunit and Nijana Mandrovia.
So Geshe is continuing with his teachings on the mind and the mental factors, and he's in the text Science and Philosophy in the Indian Buddhist Classics. And Geshe Lharampa in the past class has taught about patience or forbearance, and now he's just finishing that part of the text. It's in the ebook. It's on page 161.
Also, Tandandi Romanji Pagalonji John Dute, Yapon Santé, Geshe no Pachibicalte Polna, Tela Copici the Doka, Techa Tekong, and the main Swanchi, Romanji Bitsiore, Cojon di Tonda Country Sunguyores and Nazo, Nabja Gendela. Control Zavicable, Mijambagula no Pachichi Capsicol, Pano Pachichigres, the Pano Pachichina, Sosolitz, no Patinelli, Chetani, no Pat Mepa Chacareves, the Mepa Machana Pano Pachichini Carpento, or it's no Pachiatella, Yanjo Pano Pachichina, Yanjo Sanopa, Duri Mate, Yari Yanjo Marquesi, Pano Pachi, Sono Pachiatella, Yanjo Pano Pachina, Soso no Pat, Dokoyo, not no Pachin and Decorated in Dokoyo Mari.
So it's on page 160. Geshe quoted from entering the middle way by Chandrakirti. The verse reads, "If you respond with vengeance when someone harms you, does your vengeance reverse what was inflicted? Vengeance surely serves no purpose in this life." So what this verse is saying is that when one has been harmed by someone else, then there's not really any point to do any revenge or to harm the other person, the harmdoer, in return, because the harm is already done. If it was the case that by retaliating or taking revenge, that the harm would be then eliminated by in some way, then would be reasonable to take revenge. But this is not the case. So therefore, this is pointing to advising us that there's no really any reason to get angry in return and retaliate if someone else harms us.
That's what Trinity Water, Papa la Roma, Jigapa Tsichiton, Pade Dawa, Jigap in Jerry Trinidad, Tenila, Troy on John Bouzon, Mambin Chupa Mambatar, Tapano more jazzing, no more tanger, Kanza Manziat, Jigap in Java Nala Padeda, and then the same chance to Manja, then the no more Namkionji, number keeping Kinam, the same chatalan to Machezia, Tsunindu, then you turned out the carrier, the Teninason kitchen boysari. Sanji Chodan in the Padita was on Kepat, so Karche and the Pasha was also Mandri Pachi Chevi Capsa, Pasha Kanzati Kyomari, Pasha control with your Nyomon with your resini. The new Mongolajani Gonzalo Subamazawa, the Tendichegres, Penangato Nyumban Chichi on the Shata call Nyumbi Natayore, Nyumbi Nata Wongresini, Mitu Karchenangato Zogum Cheto Yores, Teta Chiparingato, Minagi and control with Jean on the Kersona, Yumba the Chibari Deo Sontani, control on Gitsano Pachevisangato Zogum Chegores, and what is on Shatepe Nakia Yapondo on Tonguyo.
Then on the next page 161, there are two verses, one by Aryadeva from his 400 stanzas, which reads, Just as a doctor does not get angry with an enraged person seized by demonic forces, the Buddhas see mental afflictions as the enemy, not the person who has them. And then Chandrakirti says in his commentary on the 400 stanzas, thinking the fault here is not sentient beings, the fault is the mental afflictions. Wise ones who have thoroughly analyzed this do not get angry with sentient beings. So this is, again, giving good advice, saying that, the skilled or the skilled people do when they are being harmed by someone. They do not get angry with the person who is harming them, but they see the fault with the afflictions. And it's, or one can think of, a crazy or mentally imbalanced person. They're having this mental issue. And in that way, knowing that fact that people are, not mentally stable, one can more easily be patient with them. And people who are angry or are influenced strongly by their negative afflictions, such as anger, one can regard them rather, like a crazy person, due to which then it becomes easier to be patient with them. And I see that as a good way of, dealing with this.
That ngarso nyamnyong ni sawlo thonda ta ta ngoni nyomba do chi so control shi chimbu lang ka so che so leka di control shi chibu lang bi ka chopo yenare ngoshi pa yenare tani kari yena control teni kyoba maro shu che ndo jima control manja cha ti sawlo thoni ngo cha pon chung do ngo sa bo chong na leka ta cha cha kar zi di kap ti di control zai kap so nyomba na cha de ya te sabo sa chang so ngoni nyamnyong sa na te ha ko re
수수랑 공투상.
소소 뇽바 나지 지린도아. 대하고그래. 혼자 잠바 컨트롤자나 코 뇽바 나지 장을 갑데딩아 조금 제도나 빼야 보여. 레시톤다테.
Yeah, so we can also relate that very well to our own experience. We can also think of instances that we were very angry. Then we can say that we are almost like a crazy person. We get very angry maybe towards friends or relatives or other acquaintances, and then engage in all sorts of negative actions. And then, but later on, when the anger subsides, when we come down again, then we have a sense of shame and embarrassment. So that's also a way of relating this to our own experience.
Ayikpa la so ngu ko te kartem pem pa la chona te en jerdan ki pa pise nyen na jerdan la cho rizi ni tandri gu chi jandu tan pe na nga so control on ka so mi chi ko ali yukpa ga shuna na yukpa te le control mazani mi te le control za ndo as ta tandri yimba ina mi te le control za yo mare mi te le tandri nga le yukpa shi wa te jawlo le control te cha che de ni ngoni te nga so control le kyon ta na ma to mi and
then still a little bit further down, there's a quote from the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, or Engaging in the Bodhisattva's Deeds, which says, if I become angry with the wielder who directly employs the stick and so on, then since he is impelled only by hatred, at worst I should get angry with hatred instead. So this is Shantideva here saying that, just like we get angry with a person who holds a stick in his arm and beats us, we don't get angry with the stick, but with the person. And so likewise, the person actually is, influenced by the afflictions. So in the sense, just like the person is behind the stick, the afflictions, such as anger, for example, are behind the person. So we should not get angry with the person, but rather with the afflictions of that person.
Also, what happened in the Shiretini? The water like Katana Sholokan in the Tinichi Rojana Poison. Cartier Jalan Sepche Pipe Cheaper Namji Ranjana, Tela Choa Marite Sepi Ranjan Mekondas, Wonte Stunte Lord with Semja Ranjan Nipa now, Wonte Choa Marite, Kalatan to Copajans, that Petamatari Haku. Counter Natso Misita Salinayon. Tandroa mi zea shede mi zea semchen tsamal kyoba marabzina katina control launch chota control launch zawat semchen ga ranjin rawochi cha dendus ranjin rawochi cha de nga so nawja gendal kol zav cheni so cheni deto zav che gore ma to pena me nanjin res me nanjin de me de to ambar de wodi nga so tel mel lakpa matiga so zav che go me lakpa ti sati mel control cha za yor me tsabo yembat me koro kechu cha de ore so zav che gore ste nanje semchen to so control zani no pa che de at semchen ranjin cha de o sonsa so nge ni zav cheni then
again, on the next page, page 162, again, there are two verses from the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, which read, "If it is the nature of childish beings to act hurtfully towards others, then it is as unreasonable to get angry with them as it is to begrudge a fire for burning. And if this is an adventitious fault in beings whose nature is agreeable, then it is as unreasonable to get angry with them as it is to blame the sky for bearing smoke." So the first verse is about people who say, generally speaking, we can say that living beings we are all influenced by our afflictions, and which we can say is their nature. In a sense, yes, a childish being's nature, as it were, is to be influenced by their afflictions, and we should rather than be careful with them, maybe keep a distance. It's just like we would be careful with fire, not to put our hand in the fire, which has the nature of being hot and burning. So likewise, if it's the nature of the childish beings to be influenced by the afflictions, we should be careful with them in a sense.
Tani yana tats kani pat yan jamba savlo tandanji china gidang ko kyoba mara mayimba yan nekap ko pasho ko nyomong go pena control zawa tan chato lawa tan dancing kiwa tindi kabla ngala no pa chegre ma to katina no pa cheg mamba tindi do chig savlo tona tanga so mingashi navja genda mi yapo yo pala aran rawon ton tindi chibi kapse kyoba mara chayo ri tidi nga so atako arak kyongre tez zogum che shozini zogum che togndwas te navja mi te sole ando chata control tan chato tan ngarge te so lawi kabla kyoba mara chegre ma to katina ni kyoba mara cheg mari kyoba mara cheg kabla zogum che shozini.
And then the second fault speaks about people that are by nature agreeable, but then from time to time some strong afflictions come up, such as attachment, anger, jealousy, pride, and whatnot. And so in that case, again, we are advised to be patient with them because they are just like a person who's drunk who temporarily is influenced by alcohol and then behaves badly, but on the whole, generally speaking, it's a lovely person. So likewise, when people are generally agreeable but occasionally afflictions come up, it's not really their nature. So that's another way to think, and then work on our patience.
Ani nga so navja genda zopa gomgore zopa gomze at kuchochile deni kamba chipu chini gomde jizmari sona ndoi kabl gomgoya chalachi womanji panal genso chosen teta parmochi dersha kimba na nga se ando chigure ena zopa gomya to su kimba to su zawzab cheshos karze nyota thui kabl zopa gomgore ma to kuchochile zeni nyota chone message le de dena zopa gomse che partially nyota chile mara zopa gomyat nyota mansa le zopa gomgore sonsa navja gendal te pecho tanda gaso solo pento kore so semba ke poyonwar ro
ya chitol na do
kensol gomgore ze kensol na le zopa ziat gomgore mu zopa ziat ku chochilin roni gomde ya sawani ni mare
susurang la
chigo dena control ani che yo mare zopa gomse che yo mare control lonke mena zopa sala gondolara
I guess so. Patience is something that we cannot really develop on our own, sitting on a cushion meditating just by ourselves. We really have to go out into, the society, into the world, as it were, where we are, faced with, different kind of people, I guess, triggering us, pushing our buttons and so forth. So this is the only way we can work, on our patience, because when we are interacting with people, sooner or later we face issues or situations, people who, trigger our anger and whatnot. So these are the situations we can really meditate and develop patience, not by ourselves alone. And then that's what Chandra Kirti says in his entering into the middle way.
J'ai dans mes bigues ça ta namba mansewati kap samal ni je she de reta te chikpa mungjen o markanter ni je zeat mi jambal kangi chong itena so kangi chong na makwa nani kangi mayon vi tabla so gi cheka te tomna che to ya tindi samlo chikla ni je la ore dingar ta charna pa shol kangi mayon asho dingar ta charna ze ti kangi mayon batro o kangi mayon na sho sambi kangi mayon na gawa ta kangi mayon be tabla lamba pa ta kangi mauna chikare kangi tena semba makewa chonga tensol ninje labde gore
ani di datung geba chuchik na la yura
geba chuchik na ni tama number mansewa zedia ta cha de gore tumu me bige sa cha de wo chiri ta to chibari
timo maybe
tumu me bige sa cha de wo chiri ta number mansewa re de gore ko counter
number mansewa okay, so Geshe then continues on to on page 163 in the ebook on compassion, which is still kind of in the context of these 11 virtues factors that that Geshe has taught about. In particular, it falls into this one class of the mental factor of non-harmfulness. So, explaining compassion a bit more in detail, Geshe says that it's by definition, the wish, wanting other sentient beings to be free from suffering and harm, and doing and working towards that aim, working towards beings being free from suffering and hardships.
Asatati mambo chi dena tani chi tanga so chamba ta ni je ya te tanga so namjo jende nyamle che gona kale ka pone koli la pori chamba ya mi jamba la yapo chona gade ya ta yapo chon itap shi che de ya te ni je ya te dupo chona ma ga ta dupo mo yong itap shi che de ya ko lin li la po nga so che mshia chi tsawani ni mare na che mtho ya chi re.
Yeah, so both loving kindness or love and compassion are nothing really difficult to understand intellectually. It's difficult to practice. That's a different issue, right? But it's not difficult to understand. While loving kindness or love is the wish for all sentient beings to be happy, and then working towards that aim, and compassion and comparison is the wish for sentient beings to be free from suffering and working towards that purpose.
Nasa tani nije tani chikja nije ntatal konsan chokotati kol gewa chachi shepa la teni tele teni gewa tal na byanga so dira jon ikapsala gewa nga zya chi ngocho che ayo te chi shendu te chi je gewa nga tal tonda bi gewa ngoni ji gewa sonda ji gewa karnon ji gewa jinri ji gewa zini gewa de tsanga shi ayo re te chi ngocho che ya
ene di ninje dan dewa yoro
ta ke tan kon la gewa chachi shesha tsaro ti tilnje ayo re.
Okay, so as compassion is part of these this group of 11 virtuous mental factors, at the towards the end of the chapter, His Holiness then explains 5 types of virtue.
Gewa chachitala gewa ngazia pombo tonda bi gewa zia chindu tonda bi gewa tanga so tomba nyaran le jakandu te gewa ngoni revezena mare tanta. So
the first here in this list of 5 types of virtue is ultimate virtue, which refers to emptiness. So it is merely named or merely called, imputed as a virtue, but emptiness is not a virtue as such.
No, tani ngoni ki gewa zia chi gore ngoni ki gewa ta koro gel gewa sam ko gewa chandro ya tere pena tanda kon nga so shia gewa chasi tsama ngoni ki gewa chande ore to so gel ke sana gewa re ma to jamba cheki kang go mar.
So then the second group is virtue by its essential nature. These are mental factors that
chant-
that all
no,
these 11 virtues mental factors that Geshe Lharampa has talked about before, these are all by nature virtues. They are not any other conditions or factors needed for them to be virtue. They're just by virtue. I mean, by nature, they are virtues.
Asamban sondanji gewa ziyatri, sondanji gewa ziyatri, chokndra chigla teni gewa rinjwa mato, nabje gewa tamari, pena ngandra wachina tanda samlo chikao matani dewana ni sembata gewa chamari. Parushiti parungi jila tepan chile ona sem de tan tepa ni tan sonden jo jakore. Sonden jo jakore tepi top ki sem de gewa zo jakore. Telen sondanji gewa lagre.
Yeah, sem korang gewa mare.
Tomboni gewa chak de mare tepa le ate sem de gewa zo sha.
And then as a third group we have virtue through concomitance. And then Geshe explains that, for example, a mind, let's say a neutral state of mind, for example, is not virtuous as such. But if a mental factor of, say, faith arises in that mind, then that mind, because of the virtuous factor of faith, becomes also virtuous. And without a virtuous mental factor such as faith and any of these others, of the 11 virtuous mental factors, for example, without them, the mind is not necessarily virtuous, right? So for these virtues through concomitance, there needs some other factor needs to be in place.
Last week, so ani kalungo gewazia chiu kalungo gewazia de at linga ka chopata sorry linga ka chopata le non ni semla nyaje pena ni jen chi ka loni pasol ropan ro le ka karchena ti le tanga ka cha she ata linga ka sama gewachin ro ayore ani control chi ka le ka chi on di magge kni lon di magge wa chan ro ore sonza tinji cham nyaje kni lon ayina ri te ban ro gewachi kni lon ni linga ka chopat yarap ta sola kalungo gewaja ai.
And then the fourth group is virtue owing to motivation. And this is, for example, when we are, motivated by loving kindness and compassion, and then either say something or, engage in physical actions, that they, by virtue of our, in that case, positive motivation, become positive, or else can also be, being motivated by anger and then saying some harsh words or whatever, acting in a negative, harmful way towards others, then that's, non-virtue then, owing to motivation. But here we're talking about virtue, so loving kindness and compassion, for example, that make our speech and bodily actions virtue.
So tani jinje ki gewa ziyate jinje ki gewa tala gewi pasha tala jade ore pasha jak tong ne ma solomon bo jude ba ta gewa ziyate nga so gewa njoche ge so kan yang japi pasha loma tenze ni tani chure gewa kanji chisana ko pasha ja on de pasha tala loma ten chan ro ina loma ten chan ro ta jima tin jewa ta tata ken jewa ta givin jewa ta ki ongre ke ongre ma to kyon ni ra yo mar ko pasha ngo loma ten de de nai Motendi chigla loma ten chigla tate ang gewa ngoni tambo ta tanga pa ta gewa ngoni rezena mari tata ko gewi chotok ko zawache mono cheni te gewa mi tawa re jamba samda gewa ngoni jagore.
So tambo nipa means
tambo ta ngapa nita.
Yeah. And then the last one, the fifth of these 5 types of virtues, virtue through relationship. Kasandi bakchak.
Gewi bakchak tal jak.
And that refers to in the text says latent potencies or imprints of virtuous actions that are left in our mind stream. And so virtuous actions that we are doing with our body, speech, and mind, they leave a latent potency, right, or an imprint in our mind stream. And these imprints are referred to as virtue through relationship. And also Geshe Lharampa explained that although, say, a virtuous action leaves an imprint, the imprint itself is neutral, but nevertheless it will at some point in the future give rise to a result according to the action, virtue in this case.
Tanga Chistianguri, Jolly Jandu mean. You had Tanga Jumato Chicama, Nazo the Kindro and Jahat, and you can't only pitch on Gormo Cochundro, and that's okay, the Gomo is in a Mare, in a Gomo Quote Chindro, gave Pacha there, Chipachi Chantendo, which she they were. Gave out Tombo Pacha Tijas and all the Pachas there, Chileon, gave Aris in a Marita, gave Cochundro.
Okay, to give an example, we create a virtuous action which leaves an imprint on the mind stream, which is neutral, but nevertheless gives rise to virtue. I mean, the result of the virtuous action that has left the imprint, and it's just like money. Geshe says we put on the bank, for example, and then we receive say amount on our phone, on Google Pay or Phone Pay or whatever. And we can use it in all sorts of ways, and so the.
Give a child, my give you question, Pesha radio, my Pesha question,
yeah. So I mean, on the phone only it shows the numbers. It's not real, money as such, but we can use it in that way. So somehow that's likened to the imprints of actions that we do. Yeah, so that's the virtuous relationship, the imprints. And then we come to the 6 root afflictions. They're attachment, anger, pride, afflictive ignorance, afflictive doubt, and afflictive view.
Tandela nyomo changi marupata, nyomo changi tetsom da, nyomo changi tawazini, samja tela kariziti, ta tetsom dela nyomo changi inke tamayinke ni yoresi, tawa tela nyomo changi inke tamayinke ni, marupata le nyomo changi inke tamayinke ni, tendri yosonsa tela nyomo changi tepachi tsijaresi, ndocha kontro ngarjasam tela nyomo chamayinke chuni yomari, sama nyomo yimba yosonsa, tela nyomo changi atmajaresi, injinal tandwe.
Yeah. Marikpa
tetsom tawasam dala nyomo chanze ni tsigyar kores magyarna kosol nyomo cha mainye yores.
So here in this list we have attachment, anger, and pride. I mean, they are always afflictive, while ignorance, doubt, and view are not necessarily afflictive. But here in this case they are, and that's why it's specified in that listing. That's why it says afflictive ignorance, afflictive doubt, and afflictive view.
Laso ta tombu ngando chani ma doni rowe wolo ni yosat koro katu ni jegia.
Nini?
Marupal nyomo che yimaye ni tetsom ziti tetsom da marupa koro so shevi kable juia.
Ale nini
nyomo che chani ma jin roya.
Yeah, so but first Geshe is going to explain about attachment, and then later on what ignorance, doubt, and view is concerned. Then there's this, this specification, one being afflictive and the other one not. But but starting now with attachment.
Tani nyomo ze de ate ketoni nyomo karze gorza konsan chako rangel gela tambi kanza ki semje major chepi cheli changi semjong ze ni tilam do karze tingatso nachu na she nyomo ze de ate ngatso Draw me in a social same chance, say, so Makipazo dining, some lot of solid new monze de gore, Semba trick dining, Semba Makipazo, Semba trick dining, some lochiora, or telling you more like de gore.
But generally speaking, when we talk about mental afflictions in general, His Holiness gives the definition saying that it's a mental, or any mental affliction is a mental factor that functions to disturb the mind stream of the person in whose continuum it occurs.
Last, Tani, that the Makipazo at the pen and Dochas at the same Lakina Makipazo, Condros at the same Lena Makipazo is in Senja, that's what Tenjiroa.
Yeah, so just for example, attachment or anger, whenever these afflictions are in our mind stream, these are the mental factors that agitate the mind, disturb the mind stream.
Tani, Kirtan Dochas at the Pashoko Yapon Riching Tony, Telekegre, Tati. Dochak ngo talande kan zachi ki ngo por rang ngo go ni yet go antoni lapar ton da ni sem jong la wore ko pa shok mungsa ge chalang ro ta zachi na chu na la zachi za me ni xie yo re ten ge zachi chi yin go re ten ko yak po ching thong go re mong do cha ke sa te so so yak po yin na shar go re ma ton do cha ke go mar tani tel lakpa dro ta ni lakpa dro ta zena ko re yak po chi yo pa la til lak po shu chi yak po ro chi sam ni ani ta ngal thum do go sa ta ngal go ndu sam bi sam lo chi lan do cha la de go re
ya je ding yak po tong da
ko ta ta ro chi na ke yo
So, okay, then attachment. Here it says in the text that this mental factor of attachment seeks to acquire something contaminated on account of conceiving it to be intrinsically attractive. So, yeah, if we see something as like in a positive light, but like not in a normal manner, then there's no attachment. But usually the mind of attachment exaggerates the quality of whatever object we are attracted to. So it really exaggerates the qualities, sees the person or an object as extremely beautiful or attractive, whatnot, and then that's what attachment does.
Tando chak ngotron rawo chi na bjanga so tserme yeche chi tando pa chi ni gyarni te nin do cha she gore tra chi te na sulmu yeche ne le do ta ni sa lo chen che lo chi ndo gore sa lo chen che lo te shu chi ya po chi to ni ta pa sho le pe na de mo de chi na mo de ni ya po chi na so ya chan de chi ni mi chi ta na ya cha chun de chi ya po yo na nge do ka se ya cha chong na ni she sum chi ten ji ya do ta gore ten ji ya po shu chi ndu sam bi lo te le tsulmu yeche la re ten do cha ra ma re nel ndo go yatri hakoson ta ti ji le ten ta tengal go sam din do pa chi zung go hotel ndo chala gari
so here Geshe distinguishes for example we can see that we see the cup and then say it is 10% good or attractive, but then our mind exaggerates the positive quality of that cup, makes it 20, 30, 40, 50% really extremely beautiful and attractive. That's not attachment yet, but it kind of precedes it. Once we, or in that mind, by exaggerating these qualities or whatever beautiful object we see, then the strong desire comes up, wishing for it, yeah, so this desire, wishing to obtain it, for example. Then that's the mind of attachment.
Nemal nga so ndamba ze achin do tangi part ko re semjong ndamba mu pa chamba tangi ze shira yernge nga tombo ndamba ze achi wa to ndanyen kich pa shot shu jo chi tani tani to ndanye wa tani chi go semjong ndamba ze at cheng do nge ma so o te go
di do to di ya
ta counter te shu chi to ndanye ni ndamba te le yong go ndamba do cha so ya ndamba koron do cha chan do go kamdala
alo
ndamba ziyad ka ina jugde ni chira ti ka ndo chare yong parche
dis nganda song so sala di tambo
tombo drota ya ndo cha mare
alo ya
tele therme ye cheri ti ka le ton da ni wa ndo char ta ten she song ton da ni azi ta ngal go
ya she sang di dun pa tang chi pare
ndamba ko ton da ni wa yim bak ni ma
ya
tenin che sa ndamba tel ndo chang won ro yo ndu zi ndamba ten do chang won ro ja ka therme ye che ga ni la ni ti ji lan ndamba le on ndo cha ren ro ton da ni te tataman machine and rikin ro tatani pena nga taki chi tenso gyal pe chi yore te chi shena te ratcholi lao yo sari gyal tani jindu chinje yani chu shisha insa yo tsik tani chi yore ko kar la ores nga so popo mo so gapo ro gapo chi kafsa pasho ko so kasa puina pomo ine talo pa gyacha gya po shu chin tongore state shisha zya te kyo to pomo chi lo ko so kasa pomo te shun zi po shu chin tongore mi jamba ta so ta kitan re chi yak pomo do asam kurung sem le shu yak po chi tongore te kar zi ti tsulme ye che zya te dro shu ta sares a dro shu ta ni yak po chi son pena tingolen do par le ayem barwa tendo chazya te tendi shi gyana te ko la me so
So Geshe quoted something in Chinese, but what it means is, just to give another example, we can also think of people, men and women. Say one person is particular, like a man is particularly attractive to a woman, then he sees that woman as extremely beautiful, while other people who are not, particularly attracted to that person, they don't see anything, special. But that person, being attracted to the other person, exaggerates the qualities. So that's superimposing or exaggerating the qualities. And then, it's also in a sense an incorrect way of thinking, which, thinks of that person as so beautiful and this and that, having all these extremely good qualities, which are not in accordance with, reality, let's say, or in a way other people who are not attached to the person relate to that person.
So, the Chalina, that's a new one, but Katsama, Nimangaso, Luri Dunganani, Loshi, the Niparti in Gorita, Loshi by Kyoto Hakosari.
The
Dochina, the contrary, and Nadia Maru, but it's on Tawatama Loshi in Gorit, and then Docha the Loshi in Batan what's his way.
Duchagina Lokshe?
Chauri.
So do you remember when we talked about wrong views? And so here Geshe says the attachment, mind of attachment is necessarily a wrong view.
Loshi in Tonka Resinako, Yacha Chitus Yapomena, Yacha Nisha some Dromon Botasar, what teach any Loshi Jade?
It is a wrong view because, say, something is by like 10% beautiful, but the mind exaggerates the qualities and makes it 20, 30, 40, 50% beautiful. And in that way, because of that, it's also a wrong view.
Take beautiful and loud, very beautiful that the Chatan Machine, so Yapon Rachimungan, Zibo Zat Yamari. Devala Chakura, the Kiziat Yaponogora, and Zipozia Chiquayo, Martingilia, Dochakia Yorita. Also Deval Chayat, Pashot and Zipori Samgo Mata Yapori Sami Chakayora. The Nichibare.
Intimity Zipo, talking about the Yapo.
Dekiziat and Zipozia Chimera. Boynoich in a Dekil and Zipo 10 year, Yabo 10 year, engine by Namanish.
Okay, maybe the mind sees something as particularly good. I said maybe beautiful, but the mind sees something as particularly good.
What an issue got it. Atani, Dochatala, Yevatala, some jando, then the Dopi, Doset and Jixet and Sasset in some Jasha.
There is a division of attachment a little further in the text, and it gives the three groups of craving for the desirable, craving for dissolution, and craving for continued existence.
Tatombo the Devatan Trendo Kundo Chata, Dingertan Trendo Kundo Chazini, Testi Jando, Takirtani, Devatan Trendo, Dingertan Trendo, Chambanya Jeni Chadeora. Andicable Nijeshe on a Nochache on a candidate, and Dical Drota Pachi in Gori, Chambat Nijeni, Dromatanico, Devala Tata, Deva Tata, and Tony Dingertan Travel, Dingertan, Tata Lotunchi in Gori, Dicals, Devatan Trendo, Dingertan Trendo, Dochala on the Drotani, Devatal Pacha Momboyat. They were Chunchuchil, they were Chimbonzamba, Dingatan Trawa, Dinga Chunchuchil, Dinga Chimbochilia, Drota, Chimichi in Gore.
Gondadia comes Jambadang,
Chamba the Karin, they were on Chando the Chamba in.
Devadang, you.
They were on Chando the Chamba Are.
Mare, Ninji.
Nije Dingertan Chando. That's Chibanchile on Guazi. The Yinji Poing knowledge which Chando, they are on Chando, Dingertan Chandozin. Par contre, Devala Chapatan, Dingertan Travala Chapi, Chapanitala, Dossier la Grace.
Devala Chapa.
Dingertan Travala Chapash, Yoroa. Or Tenila, Dossier la Grace, Attendeshi Gavjota.
Anyway, so craving for the desirable. The first of these three types of attachment is that attachment that wishes for happiness. And not wishes not to be separated from it.
Devalan do Chakiata, Dinga Travalan do Chakia Yores. O thing do Chanitala, do se la Grace, do se la de Tela Grace. Devalan do Chakia Yore.
Yeah.
Teta chick, Dingertan Travalan do Chakia Yo. Tenilan Tanda do Chasum de Chevi Tombo to Teni Jagores.
Yeah, so it is the attachment for happiness and attachment to be free from suffering. That falls into this category, craving for the desirable.
sonsa nani chamba ta nije mare vese ne chamba ta nije mares
But is it not loving compassion? It's not.
chamba ta nije ni ka ko yerta ta chon zin di hi ne ma lo ri dang nang lo ton ta ma lo shi ma yin ke chi gore ni lo shi cha de ores
Because loving kindness and compassion, they will dun be yul. Mare yul kare de jamba dang ninje.
chamba ga yir dewa ta nije ga yir dinga ta chawa ta wa
Re.
yana den de chi pan de chen ndo wa ndo dron do ko lo ri ne ma to lo tun res
Okay, so it is not the same, because we said this first type of attachment is attachment to happiness and attachment to be free from suffering, but it's not the same as love and compassion, because we said love is also the wish for other sentient beings to be happy, and then compassion would be the wish for other sentient beings to be free from suffering. While loving kindness and compassion is a mind that accords with reality, here it is, we are talking about attachment with this, which is a mind that is not in accordance with reality, because it exaggerates, right?
las tani resoi tani ta ni pa ta kare zen jikse zya ta te kombo ro chi ta ngirin de den de yo yo sare a to kangin ro shi chimbu tani cheon de tanga sombo de na chere mu nga shi so na ga ndu sa ni shawa lan do cha kya yo res hotel jikse ze de gore.
And then the second form of attachment is craving for dissolution, and this is explained to be the wish for the attachment to dying or to death, because it might be that someone is suffering extremely due to whatever illness or so, and wishes not to live anymore, and they crave or are attached to dying or to death.
Otani sambata sese de te takinga so yon chak ndo cha ze de at tingon le te ori chala ya polo cha namba ya polo cha ya ta zama jambol cha drahnim bol cha wa o tendi tsama tel tama tel pombol cha pa ze na te lab de ori do cha yon zo to manche za tingon le ori ko ndo za ya jambo mukta sa zi ya po drahnim bo ro jambo ya chan jambo to chol cha de atal do chach mansho de tingoni yonde gora tel se de do chach sambati tere.
Okay, and then the third form of attachment is the craving for continued existence, and this is what we oftentimes usually refer to attachment as attachment, being attached to seeing nice forms, hearing pleasant sounds, eating good food, wearing comfortable clothes, and so forth.
No tere tan do chach de na tene do chi ren do chach de do yimba ta ha ko so na kan da chenje lo ko shi ba chi tan do pa shi chimbo chi zga tene chi re tene ni ba control man ro ya.
Yeah, so this we said attachment is an exaggeration of certain qualities of an object or person. Kase do tok
do chach de ate lo chenje lo ser ma ye chi chi ko on ni yelan do pa shi zg de ni tene chi yimba ha ko so na pa chen ring ro.
Yeah, it's an incorrect way of perceiving an object or a person, exaggerating the qualities. And then next comes the mental effect of anger.
Anger tene control mu yo sombo kan ro la mu ni mo zo pi ken ni nar sem ba no pa che par ndo pi sem jong te ze te ta de control ze de at pa sho ni chi ken ro chi ten yon di tan de mu yi sam lan do mu yi sam de mi chi ga ngal na po che vi tsena pe na mi chi ge pa shi vi tsena me chi yore ju pa ti yore telingal na sa tangre tasam la teni nga control a yungre mu pa sam de tel la de ore mi chi ga ngal ju pa chi shi na ha ko ra mi te ju pa shi ni na sa ta wa ji chen te sam teni nga control ang ngora son da control mu pa sam ze na te sam la tse gore te la cheni ta pa ya te di na po chi che go sam bi sam lo chi le ona te le control a gre e ma control ta ko te ti ngu si ore ta te rin cha to ma control ta dingar ni le kar kya var yore ni mombo triso control si de ate so se ma ke pa sa ma imba pa no pa chen don ka sam lo tan chi yo kore dingar ze so se ma ke va tro kang yi va te ran re ma to pa no pa chen do ko tan chi kya re.
Okay, so here anger is defined as a mental factor that upon perceiving any of the three objects of anger arises as intolerance and hostility, wishing to cause harm. And there are three types of objects of anger. It's first sentient being or sentient beings, then one's own suffering, and circumstances that produce that suffering. And then Geshe says, for example, someone hits us with a stick out of anger, and which of course creates suffering. So we are, or then usually people react with anger towards the person, towards the stick, and the perceived suffering. And then apparently there was one time a question in class, someone was asking what's the difference between anger and suffering. And then, so, but anger definitely has the connotation of wishing, the kongtu mishamba nutsitsia So anger is that wish to to harm someone else, whereas obviously suffering is that is not the wish to harm someone, it's just a miserable feeling that one experiences.
Ola so tani do chi reta ta kin do cha ta tang ma ge cha chi nang do cha me pi ge sa ya ta jam ga ta ta opposite la ra do cha me pi ge sa ta do cha ni jam ga ta ta reta ngong ge je da me pi ge sa ta khon ro ni yang jam ga ta ta re ko ni ya lo ta ta o te yim ba ta ha ko so na ni chi chi pa ngo zan li la po cha
So these root afflictions. So so within the 11 root virtues we talked about non-attachment and non-hatred, and now looking into these the root afflictions, such as attachment and anger. These are the very opposites of these the virtues factors of non-attachment and non-hatred.
Injury sound going to tini, not be control move by Gaziachi or it and the Rinchin time we launch Johnny Machi John the Rigmando or Chick John Jarawa or no sim doubt on trot on ja, chola tirsum ton mumba or no cheer no power no torcho. Topi jala no pisim jagulinum join the control mupa gaziachi or young control kiatel pena michil controls that in dingal nemachi napoche sons in his chigre. Tatandan dingal napoche into some nire, jimangal napoche into sum city dala mupa sumre. Control mupa gagan on the tombo sum the tindijagor.
The Gabulunduki. So there is a quote by Nagarjuna's out of Nagarjuna's precious garland, which reads, ill will arises from 9 causes. It is the intent to harm others on the part of one who is worried about some misfortune in the 3 times, involving past harm, present harm, or possible future harm in regard to oneself, one's friends, or one's enemies. Then it's
present feature sumder. Tombo sumder.
But me detola, Natala depala tandawachi chimangala nutsiti.
Nal no pacheson sambi sumder.
Na kontu nutsiti.
Mar control mupasam.
I come to make person. Okay.
There's some tombos gayo pinani tombo sumder shade that any jambashi.
So it's mikpasum. 3 out of these 9 objects which can give rise to anger, and for example, this quote relates to the thought of someone thinking, oh, that particular person has harmed me in the past, or is harming me at the moment, present time, or will harm me in the future. So these would be 3 out of these 9 objects that may give rise to anger.
Tanti ni chopo le yang dibitis no pacheson tanda chendu maomba chendu samre.
Or then another 3 then related to one's friends, thinking, oh, this and this person has harmed my friend in the past, is harming them now, and will possibly harm them in the future.
Ta friend ze gore nyen la or nyen ze ti chopo ta pama ta so ga chok samare ta.
Can be friends or relatives, anyone closely connected with one.
Ta sambat ka re ti jala mu ngur. Ta ngi jala ndi nge ma ropa che tanda ropa che du jima ropa che jala yakpo che du sambasam.
And then the last 3 out of these 9 would be, thinking about someone benefiting one's or having benefited one's enemy in the past, or someone else benefiting one's enemy in the present time, or possibly benefiting one's enemy in the future.
Tani tangar so sawlo tanda ter nga so kontro zaki ta so re dundum ngala no pa maung pa la chitanda chi jima chena tsupa zagri ni pama chopo to so no pa chena tsupa zagri yong ni dal yakpo chena yang nga so tsupa zagri do ota sonza ko so kontro mu pa la ko dire kontro mu pa atlap sari sam kontro mu pa la ko ya kar resin ta ngala no pa chena nga so tsupa zagri ni chopo no pa chena tsupa zagri ni dollar no pachena tsupaza mundu ta yakpo chena tsupaza ndo o sonza te tsolndi ma som simjati gachani te control mu pa ga lavre.
Anyway, so yeah, these are the 9 objects, as it were, that give rise to anger. Thinking about, someone either having harmed us personally or one close person in the past, present, or future, or then, someone else benefiting one's so-called enemy, or having benefited, or in the future possibly benefiting one's enemy.
Ani tini control go nyembo zopa gom goya ta tsota control go nyemu ta zopa ta zo gal mombo shusari tini musi mombo jini mara te njoya ta samba ta ngagertre.
So now we talked quite a bit about anger and patience, how to overcome anger. So I won't go any more in more detail, but want to continue with the third one, pride.
Tandela concert chokondri lamdu genoram yote so rang phonsok ki rigla muni sem khawi number changi sem jong zenu ta ko chi sosol chi yenan ro chi sharni ta genor zena ha ko ndo chala ta sora yonde zena ha ko ndo so shite shion dero shion yona genor yona yona number ro tendri le amu cha yon sam sam pe kyon ro tendri la muni ngar geshe yo re tendri chini so sem shiu chi ya khan de ni tel ngar ger lab de gore shiuchi yana shan yonde yona shar pamjo pesha yona shan namba yona shar tani chini chik yoda yorwa teze yoya tal shiuchi yona shar ni khand sembaya dadare de atal ngargerla de ore.
So here the third root mental affliction of pride is defined as a mental factor that has the aspect of a grandiose mind caused by perceiving all kinds of excellent personal qualities, such as one's good qualities, wealth, and so on. So it's when the mind really is puffed up, as it were, with regard to one owns, one's qualities and so forth.
Ta milin thonchon che diat mo che zan de che ngarger ke che milin thonchon che zan thonchon che so che ngali yonde shiuchi yo san jamba yonde mendo no ngal namba ya po che jamba namba mendo ngal pesha shiuchi yo san jamba yo mar san milin thonchon sama te ngarger ko ni yongori ngarger mena milin thonchon che mari.
So pride is that mental factor which makes one look down on others, right? Without pride, one wouldn't think of that one is oneself so whatever, learned or wealthy, but having that sense of pride, owning so much, or having certain great qualities, and then that makes one look down onto others.
La so tani ta ngarger ke tani je ngarger mo ata yewa tel dun su jandu tani ma chi sha da tani nga so ngarger ko ngo zan chanda yewa dun zo kana yo sa yo yewa tel dundu.
There in the text there are 7 types of pride listed.
Dun tel tombo ngarger zendu ngarger zeti at kar rezeti ngaso so masaching ton so li kyo and ching ton di tel tini ngal shiuta shion yo samna panjo yo samna yonde yo samna tini cha so li mawa chigla tini ngarger cha tel ngarger lari tambot.
So the first type is a pride of superiority, that arises towards someone basically lower than oneself.
Tani Pater helping at Jesse, helping at Jet so Yunden, she said, Pomjet son Randa in Nayon, Angateli Shuchi Yonashar de Atetela, helping at Yalare, and Jabo in Nayon, and that telling at Jetchin Ateli Takitumoni Joachi or rattling at Jetche.
And then the next type of pride is towards those who are kind of equal to oneself, and that's excessive pride.
Can you helping at Jetty? That's some battle. Ngargerli jang ngargerziate ngargerli ja ta ranli choa ta pe ranli pa yonden chia pamjo chia yakpo shuina tanda tilianga ya na sharni ngargerche de chora hotel ngargerli jang ngargerziate tere sambat samba
ani tere
samba razo
di angtang timindo
ale
dere di vokla nga samba
Sambata ngargelli jang ngargerziate ra tende shijata ngargelli jang ngargerziate so yonde chimbo te solian tanda nga chena shardiate shi ta yide yonde chongwa ta yonde nyamba ta ta yonde chewa ta lesa
I said sorry, I got the
all mandation.
I said sorry, the first type is just pride. The second is pride of superiority, and now Geshe I forgot, I got the names wrong. So the first one, pride, then pride of superiority, and then third one is excessive pride. Disumba?
So yonde cheata tanda nga sangi yaro mochili ngai tanda yonde che samdena ha sa ngaje chemboro.
Okay, so excessive pride is that which relates to those higher in status. And there one, for example, one would even, have the notion of being better than His Holiness in some way.
No, Otani, Japa Ngao Nyambing I get on the Pompola moving at Yerzin the Tachig. That Munina Ngao Nyambing I get Emma Mambing at Yersachi or something. And they have come as Pompola moving at Yersin, so Zupontola Mudero, Ziaponda, number Yaponda, or Tandila sound on at Yerski, attended to Chilimons the Jew. Pombo, Zupoyapo, and Trotin Yapoyos and Namba Yapoyos and Nakarina, the Chingargia count the Achiora thing, Pombola Musina, the Dochiri.
Okay, and then we have the next form is pride of thinking me, which here is explained to have a sense of, one's, we're having, beautiful, perceiving one's own aggregates, one's body as particularly good.
Tanir Napa Mumbing at Gerziata, Yote Mato Palatomna Shardiat. So say Yote Chimena, Yona Shardinichi, so which Chancho Kusemaki and Akiano Shanishu, Babachin in Rodeachi, or Telmumbing at Jazir.
And then the next form is pretentious pride, that, then, one pretends to have certain great qualities, even saying that, one has developed bodhicitta, which is not the case.
Penna, Matsundawa, and the torture, nga chancho sepa mari, tangi nga chancho sepa is in a Kaza Chimbo shoot, Pambando, and the sea. Inangi, Yenashani, Mobi Nadia going, nga chancho sepa, Yenashani, nga chancho sepa is in a. The Kaza Chakar is in a Kaza Chakamari, Nadia Kawangi, Gonko, Korokoro, non short, Tendichi share, Mobi Nadia, the Tendichi Lau.
So, in the Duvaki Nangalai. So in the context of the Vinaya, the monastic rules, for example, if one were to tell just a straightforward lie, why being well aware that one is not a bodhisattva yet, but one goes around saying that I'm a bodhisattva, I have realized so high qualities. That's it's a big lie. But here it is really out of a sense of wrong sense, and one doesn't, one believes it out of a sense of pride. One believes that one has, maybe already developed bodhicitta, and then talks about it. That's not a lie, but it comes due to pride, really believing that one has these qualities.
Tani chonza nyambinga jersiatri, chonza nyambinga jeta pena tachi 다시 그 날짜리 정하정아 공산초리 나야요 삼는 날짜리 정하게라 다 정세년 가지지 공산초는 일 가르쳐 나 공산초리 때 지켜요 언제라나 때는 뭐저 정세교와 말아 쉬우교라 아니 켜버 쉬우요라 켜버 쉬우면 나 정세 공산초리 때 지켜요 언제라나 때 날짜리 때 날짜지 정세년 가지지 아들이 두pat.
So the next one is emulating pride. And then, coming back to that example of relating one's or comparing oneself to His Holiness, here emulating pride doesn't believe, that I'm, as good or even better than His Holiness, but I'm slightly lower than His Holiness.
Yeah. 그렇게 단 잡아치면 다들 덤바도 로빙 하게야 돼 로빙 하게도 다 득쇼터리 연된라 스톤 연된 돈이 바바체 돼 다게 그마잖아 마피타시 자위즈니 시위에 나셔 머세 지지 레카 득자 드리 드세틀리니 페나 다 마르천로 체니와 코솔니 기와시 쳔모드산니 로빙 하게요지로 인제 코소 기와 촌이레고 뭐 득바 장자체도 어디 로빙 하게야 돼
And then the last one, is distorted pride, which is the worst, because here one really sees or believes that certain bad qualities are good, and then one boasts with I've killed whatever sentient beings, and one has that sense of pride or one whatever. In their in Nepal, some people make blood sacrifices and see that as religious practice, but that doing this form of practice and then saying, believing that one has done a great deed. These are things where this distorted pride believes that one is doing good, but actually these are negative actions.
Lasso. Sorry, time is over.
Lasso.
End class.
So we end the class here. If
Do
there
you
are no
have
questions.
a question? Any questions?
I have one question. What is the difference between pride and arrogance?
Pride,
Yeah.
arrogance, I think. Same. Pride and arrogance. I don't know if I can.
Translate or
Yeah, I think arrogance is the same. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think there's I think it's the same. I would translate in the same way in Tibetan. Keng check.
Counter.
Keng check.
Counter. Tanga jechi kwanda ore. Lokayo chuma all that.
Wait, Keng check.
Semia. Ramto ata counter ta kepup chenjere kinta ziti kwanda ore ngarger. Shu chi yana shardera. Tandandi mukpanda mandando gashi chi jalal sa jaji yonden la sam gashi nambanda manda yora kinta zedi atero.
Yeah, Geshe says pretty much the same.
Okay.
Yeah, it can relate to, as we talked about before.
Tandi lor na la mixi kinta zedi chi tan Thomas on the tabachi chi paiser. Ngarger tinser.
I mean, he didn't come across that particular expression or word in Tibetan, but it refers to the same thing basically, where one is arrogant or proud about certain qualities one has or wealth or whatever.
What answer? As.
Okay. So then
Any jacket in the chance.
let me stop here.
Number two.
Thank you, everybody.
Krishna. Thank you, Krishna.
Oh,
Thank you for the teaching.
Thank
Thank you for the translation.
Welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.